I started to get very disillusioned with the Democrats before Barack Obama was elected in 2008, for all of the reasons I listed in my walkaway video and more. But I voted for this smooth, charming guy anyway, hoping against hope that he'd put the Democrats back on track and I wouldn't have to switch parties and face a social bloodbath. But by the end of his first term, I was done. I did not believe him to be a wild-eyed leftist in sheep's clothing like so many of you did, or a Kenyan Muslim. No, I saw him as a social climber of tremendous skill. I remember saying as early as 2010 that this guy was headed for Hollywood after his term was up. I saw his presidency as a performance. To my ears, he was simply repeating back every cliché he'd heard at every liberal cocktail party he'd ever attended. I once challenged my liberal Facebook friends to quote me one single original idea they had heard from Barack Obama. Even friends who had read both his books could not come up with anything. Barack Obama was a very well-packaged synthesis of everything progressives have been telling one another for the previous 2 decades. This is the whole of the guy as a public figure. An extremely adept traveler along a well-established liberal American railway. What he really wanted was to be rich and famous, and he understood that delivering himself as the deeply longed-for first black president was the way to do it, with the added security of knowing that millions of lefties throughout the world would form themselves into a giant human shield and protect his legacy until long after his death. Don't believe me? Think about how Kamala Harris jumped in the polls when she attacked Biden in the first debate. Then consider how she dropped in those same polls when she accidentally criticized Barack Obama's immigration policies in the second debate. She was actually stammering in fear. Doing the job of president would be no problem for Obama. He would simply preside over the government by delivering back to his promoters what they had fed to him previously. He knew that he could hire a staff who would run things. His job would simply be to check all of it through his highly tuned social instincts and advocate for what served that best. With heavy hitters like Pelosi and Schumer running the party and Republicans in a deep stupor, it would be virtually impossible for him to stray from the path. He knew that a mediocre presidency would be called historic by the black-nosers of the left-wing media. And upon leaving office, with the job of becoming mega-famous completed, the man continued his plan. He laid low for a couple of years and then went into the business of becoming seriously, no bones about it, rich. The book deal he and Michelle signed with Penguin in March of 2018 netted Team Obama $68 million. Then, just a couple of months later, the two signed with Netflix to produce movies. We don't know the figures there. Netflix is tight-lipped about it, but I think we can suppose that it's in the high tens of millions at the very least. This week marks Barack and Michelle's coming out party as both unapologetic supercapitalists and unapologetic public hypocrites. The very day that their first film hit Netflix, it was revealed that they had bought a massive $15 million estate on Martha's Vineyard. This little island off the Massachusetts coast has long been a mecca for the super woke, super rich. How much money do you need, Obama once asked us. How many yachts? How many houses? Well, the Martha's Vineyard compound makes 3 houses for him, counting the 6,200 square foot mansion in Chicago's Hyde Park that they bought in '05 for $1.65 million, and the $8 million hideaway in D.C. I predict that they will have a chalet near the Clooney's at Lake Como and a ranch in Hawaii before they're done spending Netflix money. What is their first Netflix film? It's called American Factory and tells the story of a closed GM assembly plant in Dayton that gets bought by a Chinese billionaire and turned into an automotive glass factory. On the surface is a lament about how workers are ground into dust by capitalism. But it's deeper than that. Much of the film illustrates the difference between slender, hyper-efficient Chinese workers and their slow-moving, heavily tattooed American counterparts. What drew the Obamas to this film? Does watching the Chinese outwork the Americans somehow validate the communist workers' paradise from which the Asians have come? Or is the former community organizer trying to say, look what happens when unions go away? I'm not sure. Nowhere is it mentioned that one reason the Ohio workers lost their jobs in the first place is because unions had created a culture of entitlement among auto workers, while simultaneously pricing them out of the labor market. If I had to guess, I'd say Obama liked this movie because near the end of the film, the impact of automation on jobs finally hits home. I can see him turning to Michelle and saying, "See, Michelle? I told you these jobs were never coming back." Maybe if Mr. and Mrs. O had watched a little bit closer, they'd have noticed the underlying subtext of this film. one that a certain big orange man has been talking about for years. China is out to take over the world with their odd form of free market communism, and something must be done about that. Where will they go from here as filmmakers? Will their films be political? Hard to say. Whatever they put out, their fans will find a way to make their body of work seem profound. Keep in mind the Obamas really didn't produce this film. They just bought a completed movie for Netflix and took a big payday. Supposedly, they will be more hands-on in the future. I think it's safe to say they won't be making slasher films or John Wick 4. Reportedly, there is a biography of Frederick Douglass in the works, and Michelle is said to be working on a children's show about vegetables. Yes, a children's show about vegetables. Still think that Mrs. Obama is planning to enter the presidential race? Yeah, me neither. Anyway, it's good to see them stepping forward to show the world how easy it is to get rich by playing the American political system like a fiddle. I'll be interested to see what Bernie and Liz have to say about that. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and then click the little bell to get notifications.